3. The just shall live by faith. Romans 1, 8-17. First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers, making request, if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end you may be established. That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me. Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was let hitherto, that I might have some fruit among you, even as among other Gentiles. I am debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise. So, as much as is in me, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Romans 1, 8-17. The personal comments in the preface to Romans are longer than in most of Paul's letters. It is necessary to ask why Paul took time to speak about the church in Rome and his desire to minister to the believers there. Paul had not yet been in Rome, that is, as a Christian. He says of this church, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. Verse 8. We must take Paul seriously here. Rome was the capital of the empire, and hence Christians of an important status would carry no small influence on imperial policies. We know from Philippians 4:22 that there were more than a few believers in Caesar's household. The word household, oika in the Greek, refers not merely to the dwelling, but to the members thereof. The likelihood is that these were important officers of the emperor. Clearly, Priscilla and Aquila, Romans 16:2, were merchants of wealth and note. We meet them in Acts 18, 1-3 and 26, in Corinth. In 1 Corinthians 16:19, Paul, writing from Philippi, apparently sends greetings to the Corinthians from this couple, and they appear again in 2 Timothy 4:19. More could be said about the believers in Rome. It is sufficient to take Paul's word for it that their faith had attracted widespread attention. For this reason, Paul felt that it was urgently necessary that he have the opportunity to minister to Christians in Rome, to strengthen their faith and to increase their understanding, to the end that ye may be established. Verse 11. The believers in Rome were both Jews and Gentiles. They included both the wise and the unwise, verse 14, and Paul acknowledges his debt to all. As one who was first a persecutor of the faith, he had, as he came into the church, been blessed and instructed by a variety of men. He is thus their debtor, now discharging his debt by his ministry, hence his eagerness to preach in Rome. The gospel of Christ, verse 16, is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth. The word translated as power is dunamis, as Mills commented. The word for power in the Greek means omnipotent power, strength, energy, authority. It is so used in Matthew 26:64, Luke 22:69, and Mark 14:62. It also means miraculous power, and it is so used in Mark 5:30, Luke 1:35, and in many other places. The word is also translated miracle in Matthew 11:20 and 21, and elsewhere. The gospel manifests this power to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. Verse 16. The Jew knew the power first of all. It came to him first. We must remember that, by the end of the first century, according to some estimates, there were about 500,000 Christians within the Roman Empire, and very many of these were Jews. The Jewish influence long remained in the Church well into what we call the medieval era. Some popes and bishops were from Jewish families. While Judea officially rejected the Christ, many Jews did not. Because of their background in God's law, they, as Christians, began with a very great advantage and a moral superiority. However, Paul adds, the power of God now works in the non-Jewish world also. This power is from faith to faith, verse 17. Earlier, Paul says it is to everyone that believeth, verse 16. The first reference is to persons. From faith to faith is an abstraction to stress the necessary gift in the person. Although faith only exists in a person, Paul abstracts faith from the person to stress the fact that it is a supernatural power in us which works in others. This righteousness or justice of God which is so revealed is that the just shall live by faith, verse 17. The use of the word righteousness, dikaiosune, in the Greek, is startling and also important. The natural expectation of anyone reared in evangelical theology is that Paul would say that not the righteousness but the grace of God is revealed in his sentence. The just shall live by faith. Clearly, this salvation is called justice, although it is all of grace. It is justice in two very important senses. First, it is justice because the fact of our salvation is made possible by Christ's atoning death as our substitute. We as sinners were under the penalty of death, but Christ's vicarious sacrifice redeemed us. Justice, therefore, requires our release as members of Christ and our inclusion in his new humanity. Our salvation is both an act of grace and a full satisfaction of justice. Second, it was a covenant act. In a covenant, both parties swear to be faithful unto death to the terms of the covenant, to the law or justice or righteousness of the covenant. Man broke the covenant law, thereby incurring the death penalty, but God was faithful to the covenant, and hence the fact of John 3:16. The Lord God gave God the Son to be our substitute to satisfy the covenant requirement of faithfulness and death. As very man of very man, Christ took upon himself our death penalty. As very God of very God, he demonstrated his faithfulness to the covenant unto death. Therefore, the just shall live by faith. Romans 1:17. Habakkuk 2:4 says, the just shall live by his faith. In Galatians 3:11, Paul makes clear that no man can do what Christ did. The sinner cannot produce righteousness or justice. But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God, it is evident, for the just shall live by faith. In Philippians 3:9, Paul stresses the fact that our own righteousness or justice cannot save us as sinners. We cannot be faithful to God's law. We are saved through the faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of God by faith. This makes clear the meaning of from faith to faith in Romans 1:17. It is from the faith manifested by the Incarnate One, Jesus Christ, which is communicated to us. In Hebrews 10:38, the use of "the just shall live by faith" has reference to sanctification. In all these instances, the word is live, not be saved. It is thus more inclusive. We must remember also, as I pointed out in Salvation and Godly Rule, that the very word salvation is inclusive of far more than simply being assured of heaven. It means health and victory, here and now, and forevermore. Luther, in his commentary, declared, "The righteousness of God is the cause of our salvation." This is most emphatically true, but we cannot limit the meaning of Romans 1:17 to justification. It is justification, and more. In 1520, Luther wrote, "An open letter to the Christian nobility of the German nation concerning the reform of the Christian estate." The letter was an attack on the papacy, and Luther in particular concentrated at one point on the papal states. The Pope should restrain himself, take his finger out of the pie, and claim no title to the kingdom of Naples and Sicily. He has exactly as much right to that kingdom as I have, and yet he wishes to be its overlord. With this statement we can agree, but not with a preceding conclusion. How can a man rule an empire and at the same time continue to preach, pray, study, and care for the poor? These words are not in conformity with Luther's doctrine of the priesthood of all believers. Why should a man not be able to rule a realm and at the same time be able to preach, pray, study, and care for the poor? If the just shall live by faith, they will manifest that faith in every legitimate calling. Civil authorities, according to Paul, are God's ministers. Romans 13:1 following. This is no small calling, and it is a calling because the justified man, in whatever station he may be, must live by faith. Our Lord declares, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God." Matthew 4:4. In Galatians 5:1, Paul says, "Stand fast therefore in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." The apostle here was apparently using the legal formula for the emancipation of slaves. We are not emancipated to do nothing, but contemplate our emancipation, after the manner of naval watchers of old. We are made free, we are justified to live, and we are to live by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4.